Well, that was just awesome. Cobra Kai Season 5. So Cobra Kai Season 5 picks up a little bit after Season 4 left off. Now Season 4 was really big and climactic. They had their big tournament at the All Valley, and Cobra Kai won. Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang, they lost, so now they can't practice karate in the valley anymore. And on top of that, Miguel fled to Mexico to find his dad, and Daniel LaRusso invited Chosen to come to the valley to take care of Terry Silver. And for the sake of clarity, this is going to be full spoilers, so if you haven't seen Season 5 of Cobra Kai yet, or really any of Cobra Kai, you should probably stop watching this and go watch the show. It's on Netflix. They're only 30-minute episodes. You can binge it really easy. And then come back so you can hear me gush about what they did in this season. But the gushing doesn't happen quite yet because I do have a couple small problems with this season, and they're not terrible, they don't break the show, but they are just little things I think could have been done better. For one, the opening section of Miguel going down to Mexico to find his dad, and then Johnny and Robbie have this father-son bonding trip as they go to find Miguel. I appreciated what they set out to do. They really wanted to reconcile Johnny, Robbie, and Miguel, but it kind of comes off as a little forced and rushed, and I don't think that they gave the dialogue the emotional weight that it needed. I think there were a couple good scenes with Miguel and his dad and him going through all that, but I think having Miguel so isolated from what's going on with Johnny and Robbie, you only get reconciliation with those two, and Miguel doesn't really have a chance to smooth things out with Robbie, or at least get the ball rolling in that regard, because they do become friends later in the show, and they hash it out in probably the most honest guy way that I can think of, because when guys have a problem and it comes to fighting, they'll fight for a little bit and then they'll both be tired and they've got their aggression out, and if they're both still alive and standing, well then they're best friends after. And that's what we see here, and it's handled pretty good, but I just would have liked to see some way of getting the ball rolling of that relationship earlier in the season where it doesn't feel so rushed in this fight scene. And like I said, it doesn't ruin the season or storyline for me, but it's just one of those things that early on I'm like, this feels a little cheesy and a little daytime TV soap opera-y. And it made me think, I hope the writers know what they're doing. And thankfully, the writing does get better as the season goes on, and it culminates in this really awesome showdown, and I'll get to that later. But the other nitpick is that the fight choreography, I've noticed, has gotten a little bit worse each season. The first couple seasons, there was some awesome karate stunt work, and a lot of it comes from the actual actors that they were able to get that are somewhat competent in doing martial arts. But as the fight scenes have gotten more complex and bigger and just more involved, where I start noticing here and there little instances of, oh, that wasn't really good karate, or that didn't look realistic, there was a clear opening and he didn't go for it, stuff like that. And while there aren't a lot of those moments, what really bothers me is when the cinematography changes from this very clean, lockdown camera, steady cam, following all the angles, cutting to emphasize the strikes and the blocks, into this shaky cam, quick cutting style that I'm pretty sure hides a lot of the choreography mistakes or just lack thereof of convincing choreography. And I see that, I'm like, guys, you gotta do better than that. The show is Cobra Kai. It's carrying on the Karate Kid legacy, and the cinematography in those Karate Kid movies were amazing. They were so clear, you could really feel every hit. In fact, I see those movies as the kid version of Rocky, in no small part because they have the same director, and Alvinson knew how to make convincing fight scenes. So if you're going to adapt that to a TV show that's running as long as Cobra Kai's running, you have to be consistent with how you shoot the fights, and they have to look good. So all that being said, I hope that they stop trying to take the easy way out with the fight choreography and cinematography and really go back to those Karate Kid roots, because when Cobra Kai is good and they lock down the camera and you see everything and it's clean and performed expertly, the show's amazing and probably better than some of those original movies. But anyway, back in the valley while this whole bonding road trip is going on, Daniel is going slowly insane because of Terry Silver messing with him at every turn. He's showing up to his country club. He's showing up at this auction that Amanda really cares about all the time, just goading Daniel on, playing mind games like only Terry Silver can. And Daniel resists him, but he's ultimately falling right into his hands, and you see him getting so paranoid to the point where Amanda takes the kids and leaves for a couple episodes. And while we all know just how evil Terry Silver is, he's so good at playing the sympathetic nice guy that you can see Amanda's point, because Amanda doesn't really know Terry Silver that well, and she only sees what Terry wants her to see. So you do kind of see both sides, and that maybe Daniel is getting a little too obsessed with this, and he's getting a little crazy. This is where Daniel really does hit his lowest low of the series. He's lost his dojo, he's lost most of his students, Cobra Kai is expanding, he's lost his family, and I like seeing this because for a lot of Cobra Kai, Daniel has kind of been an antagonist, at least in the early seasons, but as the seasons have progressed and Daniel and Johnny are becoming closer friends, you see more of the sympathetic side to Daniel that you saw in the original Karate Kid movies, because they were his story. And the magic of those movies, aside from Mr. Miyagi, is the fact that Daniel is the ultimate underdog. You know, he's always on the back foot, he's always got a chip on his shoulder, he's always got this uphill climb to an insurmountable task that he needs to complete. And we see that here, where he really is an underdog again, because he's lost everything. And it only gets worse from there, because even though he's got chosen in the valley and they're kind of plotting against Terry Silver, they try a couple of things. They try to attack him head on. That doesn't really work. Daniel gets his butt kicked. And then they try to be a bit more sneaky with it, and they start looking for Mike Barnes, who actually returns. Mike Barnes is back, played once again by Sean Kanan, and he looks exactly like he did in Karate Kid 3, even though he's 40 years older. And Barnes is actually doing pretty well for himself. He's a self-made man, he's independent, he owns his own furniture shop, he's doing pretty good until Daniel comes into his life and brings up all the old baggage of Terry Silver, and then Terry burns down his store, and he doesn't take that too well. But Mike Barnes isn't the only returning character from Karate Kid 3 that appears in this season. Jessica Andrews is back, played once again by Robin Lively, and she was Daniel's love interest in Karate Kid 3. I guess she's the one that first introduced Amanda to Daniel when Amanda moved to California. So that's a nice bit of continuity right there that might have been revealed in a previous season, but it's been so long since I've watched those seasons, I'm a little fuzzy on that. But nevertheless, it was nice to see her again, and when Amanda goes off to Ohio with the kids, she's the one who actually talks some sense into her and says, listen, Terry Silver is a bad dude. I experienced it, Daniel experienced it. Terry Silver did some serious damage to Daniel's psyche back then. And if he's back in the picture, you need to support your husband, because he is really going through it right now, believe me. And that's exactly what happens. Amanda takes her words to heart and brings the kids back and is ready to support him in his endeavor to take down Terry Silver. But now Terry Silver's got allies of his own. Other students of Kim Soo-do, who was the master that Terry and Kreese trained under in order to make Cobra Kai a thing. They come in and they look like villains straight out of Kill Bill. They're ruthless, they're highly skilled, they have no sense of humor, they take things deadly seriously, and they're like, listen, if you want to compete on the world stage, your students have to be the best. And so the training in Cobra Kai becomes a lot more intense, and I love the escalation of this season and the show in general. The show does a really good job at building out the world from season to season, introducing new people, old people coming back, new ideas, new philosophies, new ways of training. But in this season in particular, I really got a sense that with almost every episode, the stakes get raised just a little bit more. And when our heroes finally get a victory, it's immediately overshadowed by something Terry Silver and Cobra Kai are doing that will make it that much more difficult. And along with that, I get a real sense of community in this season. Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang are on such good terms now that the dojos are basically the same dojo. And one thing that this series is really good at doing is making old enemies into friends and putting aside their differences for the greater good, or even just bonding with each other and finding common ground. I think that's the biggest reason this show has done so well, is because people can relate to that. People you thought were your enemy back in high school can be your best friend when you're, middle-aged. I think that gives people a lot of hope, and you really get a sense of that in this season. Everybody has their little moments to shine, and even someone who's seemingly fallen to the dark side beyond redemption, like Tori, you start to see the cracks form a little bit, and you see a really interesting character arc with her in particular, where she's starting to become disillusioned with Cobra Kai. She sees how Terry is manipulating things behind the scenes, and it's not entirely honest, and she's not really cool with that. And after Robbie left Cobra Kai, she's starting to feel that pull to the Miyagi Fang way of doing things. And I'm really interested to see what the next season has in store, because I think we're going to start seeing a lot more students fall away from the Cobra Kai ideology in favor of something a bit more humane, honest, reputable? Take your pick. But what would a new season of Cobra Kai be without a new lesson from one of the senseis? A new training method that you know is going to come back around in the end. And this season, it's the protect the egg lesson. And I love this lesson on a couple levels. One is that Chosen actually gets to teach a class, and he's so much more rooted in the traditional Okinawan way of teaching karate, even teaching them the Japanese terminology of Kyutsuke, Rei, which means stand attention, and bow, which is, how you would start and end a class of karate, which is still pretty common practice even for a lot of more Americanized dojos. I always like to harken back to some of the Japanese terminology. And as someone who does Okinawan karate myself, I appreciated those little touches. That attention to detail goes a long way for me. But going back to the actual lesson, he gives every one of them a little egg, and they need to protect it while Chosen comes at them with sai and spears and nunchucks, all kinds of weapons and techniques, and they have to protect it. And the moral of the story is that you can't protect it on your own. You have to huddle in a big circle, and you have to move as a group. You have to coordinate. You have to work together in order to fend off the snake. But Cobra Kai is just growing and growing, and they don't really have a chance unless they come together, they unite, they work together, and they protect the egg. This comes into very sharp focus at the end of the season when there's this multifaceted raid on Terry Silver and Cobra Kai. It goes on like this. Against Daniel's wishes, Mike Barnes, Johnny Lawrence, and Chosen go and attack Terry Silver's house, his whole mansion that is somewhat unguarded, they think. But then the Kill Bill villains come out and they just get their butts kicked. And it is a tough fight to watch because these guys are just giving it everything they've got in order to get any kind of upper hand on these masters of martial arts. But then at the same time, all the students are attacking the flagship Cobra Kai dojo, hacking into the security camera footage to find something that'll incriminate Terry Silver, and they do, but then as soon as they're getting it and they're downloading it onto a tablet to upload it to YouTube to expose the world, all the Cobra Kai show up and there's this big fight. And for the most part, it's very well choreographed, it's very clean, it's smooth, except for one or two instances, it's pretty realistic. And when Cobra Kai starts getting the upper hand, they go into this protect the egg formation that they learned, and they use it as a way to not necessarily win, but just stall long enough for this thing to get uploaded. And then once the students see what a terrible person Terry Silver is, they'll lose all the fight in them. And that's more or less what happens, except Terry Silver is able to come in and kind of spin it his way. But then Daniel finally shows up. He's kind of been missing from this climax, but he shows up and he fights Terry Silver. He uses the techniques that Terry Silver taught him in Karate Kid 3 against him, and it's so satisfying to watch because he doesn't use it in the underhanded Cobra Kai kind of way. He uses it in the Miyagi-Do style with Miyagi-Do techniques, but the ideas of if a man can't stand, he can't fight. If he can't see, he can't fight. If he can't breathe, he can't fight. Those are what he learned from Terry Silver, and he uses that mindset and just crushes them. That's pretty much where the season leaves us as far as actual important plot-related things. I mean, there are a couple stingers like Kreese, who we've seen kind of here and there throughout the season, has been in prison, so he hasn't been doing much. Well, he just escaped from prison, so now he's on the loose. So I'm pretty curious to see what they're going to do with him next season, and he'll probably be the main antagonist now that Terry Silver is locked up behind bars, finally. And since I'm theorizing about the next season, there are a few things that I wish the next season would address and bring to a close. For one, Carmen's having a baby. I hope that that gets resolved in some kind of satisfying way. Johnny's got a second, or I guess third chance at being a dad, and his first son and his surrogate son are finally getting along, so he's really got an opportunity here to have a stable family life that he really never had. So I really want to see more done with that in the next season. And also this global tournament that I forgot to mention in the bulk of my review is basically this super exclusive global karate tournament where only the best of the best schools are invited to compete. And that was Terry's vision this whole season. He wanted to get Cobra Kai to compete on the world stage, to take Cobra Kai global. And for a little bit in the show, there's kind of a Rocky IV referencing montage of the two dojos really sprucing up to try to impress the judges and working out hard in their different styles. And ultimately both dojos get an invite, but now that Terry Silver's locked up and Cobra Kai is kind of disgraced, will the judges still allow Cobra Kai to compete? I have no idea. But whether they actually get a chance to compete in the tournament or not, it's still good news for Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang, because now they don't have to worry at least about Terry Silver cheating and buying people off, and really focus on the stiff competition of the other global dojos. So I really hope with season 6 that they actually go to this tournament and you see what goes down, and maybe they win, maybe they lose, but regardless, we're hopefully going to be able to see some really dope karate. At the end of the day, that's why I keep coming back to the show. I love the characters and the drama and the character progression that you see with all these people, but really, I'm here for the karate. And as long as Cobra Kai keeps delivering on that, I'll keep coming back and I'll keep giving you my thoughts. But now I turn it over to you guys. What did you think about season 5 of Cobra Kai? Whatever you thought, let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more content, and hit the notification bell to be notified every time I upload a video. And as always, I'm Colby. This is my nerdy talk, and I'll see you in the next video.